let's get to our next guest. I'm excited about this. We had some fun this week on the show, right? On the Big Five at 9:05, this came up. $30 million of taxpayer money going to a French company that wants to transport stuff in Quebec via airship, via zeppelin. So I've mocked it. Government had a report, by the way, in 2017, the Liberal government, that said experts saying it wouldn't work. But our next guest is going to try and convince me that I'm dead wrong. Professor Barry Prentice at the University of Manitoba's Asper School of Business joins me now. Hi, Professor Prentice. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, Professor, what do I call you? Professors? You like that? Is that good?
Just call me Barry. That'll
Barry?
be okay.
Okay, Barry, let me ask you, let me tell you this. When I think of airships, when I think of zeppelins, this is what comes to mind immediately.
Oh, the humanity.
Okay? So tell me why this will not end up like the Hindenburg.
Well, it's a whole bunch of reasons. One is that was 85 years ago. So, things have moved on a little bit since then. But, 85 years ago already, they had airships that would cross oceans nonstop. They would travel at 145 kilometers an hour. And the biggest ones would carry up to 70 tons of useful lift. And they did it on a schedule.
Uh-huh.
And that was 85 years ago.
And then they stopped for a reason, right?
They did. And the reason they stopped, in fact, was the same reason that the electric cars stopped and the windmills stopped, which was fossil fuels.
Really?
Cheap alternatives, gasoline cars and coal-fired plants. In the case of the airships, it was the jet engines and the airplanes. And the jet engines and airplanes didn't just kill the airships, they killed the transcontinental railways and the ocean liners too. And the jet age was just that.
Wow.
So there's no real demand for airships. And as a result of that, of course, the only thing they did manage to do was serve as advertising blimps, and that's what we've seen so far.
That's right, the classic Goodyear blimp. Okay, so Hindenburg aside, it's 85 years later. The technology, I guess, is better, but this French company, they don't have a prototype. They just got a rendering, a drawing.
Well, what they have is a big amount of money from the French government and from the Chinese government. All Quebec is doing is putting in a relatively small amount to get a share in a Canadian subsidiary, but they're also going to bring a manufacturing company to Quebec. And, hats off to Quebec for being brave and building their economy and creating jobs that way. But the real gain is all of northern Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, everybody knows that the cost of food in those remote communities is 2.5 to 3 times what we pay. Probably half the houses should be condemned, and there's not enough of them. 10% of those houses have someone sleeping in the living room. And the other issues like diabetes and other problems, poverty, it's all related to not being able to get there. It's the cost of transportation. And the alternative to airships is to build gravel roads. And convert the ice roads into gravel roads. And in the north, in the Shield and the Arctic, the cost is about $3 million per kilometer on average, because you have water crossings and swamps and muskeg and permafrost and outcrops of rock and everything else to overcome. So I look at it this way: Quebec is investing $30 million in an airship. What is the alternative? To build 10 kilometers of gravel road? How much would that help northern Quebec?
We're speaking with Barry Prentice. He's a professor at the University of Manitoba, and he's making a very convincing argument that this $30 million investment by the Quebec government, not so bad at all. Now, Barry, there were these studies that the previous government did where the experts said it wouldn't work. Technically speaking, the technology, the type of gas that's being used, the possibility of accidents, what has progressed technology-wise that leads you to believe, hey, this is worth the shot?
Well, in the first place, people point to the Hindenburg as you did, as, the disaster and so on into the industry. That wasn't the cause. And in fact, of all the airships, they were going for 40 years, all of them filled with hydrogen. Hindenburg is the only accident like the Hindenburg.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessarily caused by the gas per se. It was electrical discharge that ignited the envelope. And then, of course, the gas burned. But name one aircraft that's crashing that didn't burn. There's a lot of airplanes that fall out of the sky.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're still flying airplanes. So, an accident isn't enough.
We hear the stories of tragedies with helicopters all the time.
All the time. And, if you think about hydrogen today, We're using it to power school buses, in China certainly, or regular buses. Forklift trucks are now powered with hydrogen fuel cells. Even a train in Germany has hydrogen fuel cells. In Japan, Toyota is going to convert all cars to hydrogen.
Uh-huh.
So we know a lot more about that gas than before. And, we certainly can use helium. I don't like the idea because I think it's a rare gas and has other uses. But there's no reason we can't safely use hydrogen again.
And do you think, one last question here quickly because we're running out of time, but Barry, do you think that, I guess you're making a really compelling case with cargo, especially with the cost of a gravel road that as you outlined before. What about for humans and human transport?
Well, there's certainly, the airplanes do a fine job for that. I don't think we necessarily have to go to airships to move people. Now, in the north, cargo and people move together, and certainly they could, and probably they will eventually do that. I think we start with cargo. As far as long-distance travel, you could get from Montreal to Paris in probably between 24 and 36 hours by airship, and you'd arrive without a jet lag.
Yeah.
And it might be a much nicer way to travel and maybe a whole lot less expensive. So one thing we have to remember with airplanes is carbon tax is going to keep going up. It's going to get more and more expensive to fly airplanes. Airships can actually fly using hydrogen for fuel and have zero carbon emissions.
Well, you have definitely given me some food for thought and opened my mind to this. Thanks for coming on the show, Professor.
Not a problem. Happy to talk anytime.
That's Barry Prentice from the University of Manitoba's Asper School of Business. So maybe these flying whales, as they're called, that's what the company's called, flying whales, maybe not so much of a job.
Oh, the humanity.